Yo, welcome to Starbucs, powered by Chris Gates Fitness. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we have Jim Rosati. Jim, as always, happy Monday, sir.
Happy Monday. Good morning. Fresh. What an exciting 2 out of 3. Everyone was super happy all weekend long about that Rockies series. Yeah, it's a glorious weekend.
It was a glorious weekend. It was absolutely spectacular. Just as you mentioned, right? Everyone's on the edge of their seats. It was a fantastic 3-game series where the Pirates won 2, and no one could be happier.
Yeah, everyone was just super happy.
Are you setting me up?
The whole weekend. No, it was fun. I mean, it just goes to show that, like, we do a post-game show, right? So we're reacting to every game right after the game. And just a reminder, it's a 162 game season. You take 2 out of 3 from Colorado, you're fine. Like, you're fine. It's not really that big a deal.
Though?
You're fine. 2 out of 3 on to the Reds now. Take 2 out of 3 here. You just keep doing that and you're good to go. Yeah, like Brett says, 2 out of 3 and nothing to be concerned about.
Absolutely not. Yeah. You've heard. You hear what I did.
Yeah, you were a little you're a little
frustrated.
angry on Saturday, which I mean, let's be real. I think everybody was pretty frustrated on Saturday. So you just had to be the one to come on and talk about it for 30 minutes. So yeah,
Right.
it was,
Or 40.
I don't know anyone who
Ryan
wasn't
Slavin.
frustrated after Saturday. That game was, that was maybe the worst game I've seen them play this year. But then they immediately follow it up the next day. And yesterday was one of the better games they've played all season long. Just
with Josh Fleming. Just coming out
to
there.
Bottom. Everyone
just
performed.
dominating.
Like, the entire lineup hit. Everyone contributed on the mound. It was a great team win on Sunday. Like, one of the best wins of the year. So it's just funny the way baseball works.
It is funny the way baseball works. But again, we also know how Pirates baseball works. And there's just like the Saturday, especially with Grandal, it was just one of those things where I'm tired of seeing this. I'm tired of seeing it. Like, the rebuild's over. You shouldn't be seeing these stupid things happening all the time. You shouldn't be watching guys pitch the way they're pitching. So regardless, like I said, we can move past it. But yeah, but honestly though, like, concerns still on this team. Absolutely. Like, there's still a lot of things to be concerned about in the sense, but they went 2 out of 3. They're 3 games now under 500. They're 1 game out of the wild card. They're in 3rd place. There's all of your perspectives, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, it's they're 8 out of first. Their Fangraphs has them at an 11.4% chance to make the playoffs. Yeah, there are obviously some glaring holes on this team, and we talked about those a lot on Thursday night on NS9 Live. But there's some things to like about this team too. So they're right there in the pack. Like, anything can happen at this point. But a lot needs to go right, to move forward. That National League is crazy right now. There are 9 teams currently within 2 games of each other for the final 2 wildcard spots.
Right.
Everybody in the National League except the Marlins and the Rockies are playing for a playoff spot currently. I don't know if I've ever quite seen a season like this. There's only 4 teams in the NL with a winning record. 4. out of 15. And then the next 9 are just jumbled together, competing for these last 2 spots. There's 100-ish games left in the year, right? 90-ish. So, I mean, there's a lot of time for all of this to shake out. But yeah, I mean, they're right there with everybody else, seemingly. The issue now is, like, you've gotta figure out a way from this point forward to be better than at least 8 of those 9 teams, or 7 of the 8 other teams, right? You gotta be better than them. That's
Right.
tough to do. We look at this team and we're like, "How is this team gonna be better than 7 other teams down the stretch?" But there's some things to like, there's some things to not like. Obviously, things that need to be addressed.
And honestly, like the thing about this is I think it just comes down to personality. And I think like what I tried demonstrating a little bit, last week or whatever show that was, like you can have all these perspectives and I can understand. Like you can talk about this team is one game out of the wild card. And that is true, you know. It just like I think it comes down to like just the personality or mindset of people. Are you a glass half empty, glass half full, or you whatever? I mean, just and usually I'm the glass half full type of person. Like usually in life, that's how I am. But I get so frustrated about competence when it comes to these things, right? And to me, that's what frustrates me the most. Before I get any further, I do just want to say BetOnline is your number one source for NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals this season. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, the game starts here. But it's just like that's what frustrates me. And I feel like we said this. I feel like it was Tyler who said this on like our projections show. And it was if this team is in like a 79 win team, that might be the most frustrating outcome. Like, I'd rather them be like a 72 win team because they're 79. They only had to do a little bit to be in 82 and 83, which probably gets you into the playoffs, you know? And again, like that. So that is where I sit today. And that's why I keep hammering this. They didn't have to do much. They could simply not be in this situation today. They could be one of the 5 teams with an above 500 record. They could be sitting on the inside, not looking out, or on the inside looking out, you know? So like that's why I'm frustrated about this. Um and right, because there are some things to be excited about. There is. Like there is a lot of stuff to be excited about. So why can't we just be really excited about the team and just have to qualify of why there's a chance when you have 8 other guys in front of you? So it just is what it is. We're gonna have to ride this frustrating storm out for another 36 games until the trade deadline, Jim. And that's really what it's about. Like, can this team stay afloat? Can this team do at least just enough to still be in the same sort of situation at the trade deadline to be real, actual buyers and do something?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, right? Because we've seen the frustration here comes from you look at this bullpen and sometimes it just looks like they're incapable of putting up a clean inning. And then the next day, they go out and they do a bullpen game and they pitch extraordinary, right? This is like the best bullpen game team I've ever seen. I don't think we've lost a bullpen game this year.
That's the
Like
crazy part.
they
That's they
what
look at their best.
when we exclusively pitch relievers, right? We look awesome. But when there's a
This is the team
starter
with Paul
involved,
Skeens, Jared Jones, Mitch Keller, and it's when Joe Schmo starts the game
yeah,
that this
like
team
when
at its
Josh
best.
Fleming has to, you're like, all right, Josh Fleming, we need 4 to 5 innings out of you, because there's no one else to pitch today. It works, right? Um, yeah, it's a weird game. And there's that Bill James quote kind of floating around. He tweeted something out maybe 2 weeks ago where like it being like around 500 is like the most frustrating thing for baseball fans, because it's like every game matters so much, because you're looking at your record and you're just like, can we get above 500? Can we put some wins together? And it's like you win, you lose, you win, you lose. And it's just like, can we get on a roll? Can we pick a side? Like it's
Are you buyers or
it
sellers? It
yeah,
changes every other day.
because right now they're just kind of in no man's land, right? And the title of this is, can the Pirates stay afloat? And I think they can, right? You look at the teams that they're playing coming up, and you're saying, like, these are all extremely flawed teams we're about to play. I mean, look at these next few schedules here. You got Cincinnati, who's right there with the Pirates. I think we're tied with Cincinnati right now. Tampa Bay, who's not having a good season. Then Cincinnati again. So you got 9 games right there against middling to bad teams. 3 against Atlanta, which, Atlanta's good. But then you got St. Louis, the Mets, Milwaukee, who's good, White Sox. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of our next 8 series are against mediocre to bad baseball teams. So like, can they stay afloat? I think they can, because really we've seen you play 500 ball for the next month and you're probably still a game or 2 out of the wild card, right? You somehow play a little bit better, and you look a little better. And the Pirates are like 2 games above 500, I think, since if we're measuring like the Nick Gonzalez and Paul Skeens call up as kind of the demarcation point. They're like 2 games above 500 since then. So you keep up that, by the time by the time the All-Star break rolls around, you're hovering right around 500 still. You're within a game or 2 of the wild card. That's when you can, okay, now starting to get creative. The issue is that you're still going to be jumbled up with a lot of teams, because out of those 9 teams, there may be 1 or 2 that fall off, right? There may be 1 or 2 that take off. And then there's going to be 5 or 6 that just are sitting there still in the same spot. But yeah, can they tread water for as long as they need to? I think they can. And mostly to do with those starting pitchers. Like, you still have Keller, who's looked great. You've got Skeens, who's looked great. We haven't talked really a whole lot about Jones not looking as dominant lately, but he's still putting together mostly quality starts. This past weekend was an anomaly there. That was definitely his worst start. But I think there's enough there to stay afloat, right? And then, all right, now let's go ahead and let's add to this team, because they are within a game or 2 of the wild card. Despite their many, many flaws, let's try to plug some of those holes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you just said at all. Like, this team so far has stayed afloat. So can they stay afloat? Like, they can stay afloat. Absolutely. I don't look at them and say that they just can't. They can't do it. The worry though is, like, again, like, there's 9 teams. They're all right there. um, that's why the odds are so low. This isn't just like you have to like stay afloat for like 2 or 3 teams. Like, there's a lot can happen. And that's why, like, what I am fearful of is, this team's like almost like one bad injury away from shitsville. And Jared Jones, the drop in velocity, that was a little bit concerning at the end there. Not trying to make that, anything bigger than it is, but like, that was a little bit concerning. And like, if this team is without a Jared Jones for a little bit, like, that's where you say, oh boy, like, can this team stay afloat? Now I don't know. With just Skeens and Keller leading the way, and now filling it with like these bullpen games and Perez coming back, and we'll see. But regardless, I think there's enough. I think, like I jokingly said yesterday, it's like your fantasy team this 2024 Pirates. It's like, do you go and just try to like go stars and scrubs, right? Like that that process, or try to get like, just a bunch of like average people. And it's like, this is like the stars and scrubs version of like a fantasy team, right? Using stars very loosely, but it's like there's some top level talent as you talk with Jones and Keller and Skeens, right? And like you have your Kutches and Brian Reynolds and Connor Joes, and you have your Bednars and Holdermans, and then it's like you have these other guys that are just really, really bad. So the really, really bad is what's like weighing this team down. When you get to the second half of this lineup, it's really, really bad. If you don't have Holderman and Bednar and Chapman, and I'm going to throw in Mijinski now. As I said, I've taken him out of the bad pin. I've thrown him into the good pin. He's a good reliever now for this Pirates team. But like if you don't have those guys, then you see the 16-4 Colorado's game. It's just bad in that bullpen. So it's like, can they do enough to secure a lead? And then can they do enough to hold the lead? And if they can do it for half of the games, which is all that they really need right now, when 60% of your rotation is Keller, Jones, and Skeens, right? They can do it for half of the games, and this team is in business. But something I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about too, and just very, very lately, but like you talk about money ball, you talk about inefficiencies, right? I know it's kind of odd to say it's an inefficiency because I'm talking about spending money in the sense, but like, is the new inefficiency just spending some money at the beginning of the season? And like I do say this because there is 9 teams all jumbled, like you mentioned. And it just seems like for the most part, a lot of teams are just simply good enough being about 500 to just see where they're at the trade deadline. Like no one outside of like your Dodgers and Yankees, right? Like the big boys. No one anymore just says like, you know what, we're gonna go for it. And by all means, I'm not talking about the Pirates like having to go for it. Like they didn't need to go out there and sign out. Like they didn't have to have $1 billion offseason, right? But when all the teams are just kind of middling, could you just be a little bit better and feel good?
I'll say this. So if you're looking at all those teams jumbled up, right? I think the NL West teams are in maybe a little bit different bucket than those NL Central teams, right? That you could
Okay.
argue the Cardinals, Cubs, Reds, Pirates, maybe. You know what? I don't know, because like you look at those teams. I think the Reds went out there and spent some money this offseason. The
They did.
Padres the Padres had to cut payroll basically because they were just overexerting themselves a lot there for a while. But they still they went out there and they got Dylan Cease, right? They still went out there and they got Luis Arise, when the Marlins were finally like, up, we're out of here. So I don't throw all of those teams together. The Diamondbacks went out there and spent some money this offseason. Um, but you look at other teams who did, and like the Royals in the AL, right? They're in a really
They
good
did.
spot right now with what they did. I don't know if now, don't get me wrong, spending money during the offseason is better than not spending money. Because when you do spend money, you're bringing in more talented players, right? The players that the Reds brought in, or the players that the Diamondbacks brought in, are higher quality talent than the players that the Pirates brought in, right? So
They are, but it was
is
still a
it
lot of
is it
like
an
supplemental moves.
inefficiency? Yeah, there was some of that, but yeah, I mean, I guess. I think the other thing too is you're seeing this third wild card. It's obviously making it so that these mediocre teams almost have more incentive. This was my issue with that last. I was not a fan of expanding the playoffs because I don't think mediocrity should be rewarded in any means. Like
Right.
a team that's 3 games below 500 in June shouldn't be in the playoff race, right? That's not a good baseball team, but here we are. And so I feel like what it does is it kind of encourages these teams, hey, let's just see what happens with what we've got. And then when the time comes at the trade deadline, if it's worth going all in for, we'll go all in. If it's not, then we won't. Right. So I think you just got a lot of teams in that no man's land. And the Pirates are
Mhm.
certainly one of them, where let's just see what we got. Right. And when you've got a lot of teams that are just we're okay, but we're not that good, you end up with a situation like this. And there's a couple really good teams in the National League. There's a couple of really bad teams, and then there's a whole bunch of just mediocre teams.
Right. There really
And
is.
it's just like, who's going to come out of that mediocrity? And there's going to be opportunities, in the next 7 weeks to get better and pull yourself out of mediocrity. But a lot of teams still they need to get to that point. And right now there's a lot of teams getting to that point. That's
Let's
another
talk
thing
about
too
the
to
first
keep
team.
in that's another team to keep in mind too. Like when this trade deadline comes around, if there's still 9 teams in this thing, it's going to be hard to acquire players because you're going to have a lot of people buying and not a lot of people selling. Like right now, there's 2 sellers in the National League. You can pick your favorite Marlin or Rocky, like who's
And there's
on an
not that many
expiring
good
contract.
ones.
Yeah. Pick your Marlin or Rocky on an expiring contract who you think can help this team. Well, there's not a whole lot of those, right? You go to the American League, there's a few other options, but it's going to be an interesting next month and a half.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But again, on the other side too, there's 9 teams that are trying to get better. So like, if you're one of the teams getting better, everyone else is also getting better. So you got to out better them.
Yeah. Yeah. If everybody's in the same boat, it's going to be a little bit tougher. You need some of these teams to fall off here.
Right.
It's hard to beat 7 teams. It's a lot.
Let's talk about the first team they have to beat. And again, this is big. Just like we talked last week about the Cardinals. This is in divisions. They count almost like twice, right? They almost count as 2 games. If you win, they lose. And the Reds are one of those teams where, we talk about in the offseason that they're very similar to the Pirates, very high variance, but they have a lot of talent. If there's a team that could really just rise in this division and probably take it, it's probably the Reds. They haven't done that. They've done pretty much as everyone else in this division is doing, right? They're just kind of there. Obviously, a lot of talk about LA De La Cruz. That guy is just so talented. He's really putting things together this year. But, we look at him as an entire team. They have a lot of warts too. And as it stands right now, they are not in third place like the Pirates. They're below. But, as we talked, like this is the team that this Pirates team has to be. If they're going to stay afloat, they're going to do something like this is a good opportunity. Like this is how you stay afloat, but also knock down some of those people that you need to be better than come to the trade deadline. So it's a big series for, again, as we keep talking, like for a June 17th series.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big series for both teams, right? I mean, that both teams are going into the series at 34 and 37. So it's a 3-game series. Somebody's got to win it. One of these teams is going to be in a better spot than the other team when this series is over. So, like you mentioned, it's these games are really important because when you win, they lose, which changes those standings an entire game. Yeah, this Reds team at the beginning of the year, I thought they were like the biggest variance team in the division. Like I was like, if these guys all click, they can be pretty good, but if they don't, I think they can be pretty bad. And right now, some of them are clicking, some of them aren't, and it's putting them in the situation that they're in right now, where they're just kind of in the middle of the pack. Heimer Candelario's having a really good season. He's been heating up as of late. Ellie De La Cruz is, gosh, he's just so electric. Just somebody who can take over a game. He hasn't been playing as well like the last month or so. Like he started off the season really, really good, but he's still having a really strong season. 36 stolen bases. Like if he's getting on base, he's trying to take second. So that'll be a big thing to watch this series. Is just you got to keep him off the base paths, because we saw that. I think it was yesterday's game. It was either yesterday or Saturday's game, but he basically was scoring runs just all by himself, like getting on base, stealing, wild pitch, going around to score. Like it was just all him, right? So you got to keep Ellie De La Cruz off the base paths. I think if you can do that, you can help limit the damage that this offense creates, because the rest of them are struggling a little bit. Spencer Steer started off strong. He's struggling a little bit as of late. Friedel, not looking all that great lately. It's basically De La Cruz, Heimer Candelario. Those are the guys contributing a lot right now. Pitching wise, they run into Carson Spears tonight against. I mean, so if there's a pitching matchup that you love, it's Paul Skeens versus Carson Spears, right?
And by love, it's because you're a Pirates fan and not a fan
Yeah,
of just baseball pitching.
Yeah, you love that
Skeens,
pitching matchup.
yes.
Yeah, love that pitching matchup. Lodolo and Falter going in game 2, and then Hunter Green against Mitch Keller in game 3. And Hunter Green's kind of had
That's a
little
good
bit
matchup.
of it's been a little bit of a resurgence. He's finally, I mean, it's crazy. He's only 24 years old, Hunter Green. I feel like he's been around a lot longer than that. The stuff's still incredible. And then Nick Lodolo, when healthy, is pitching really, really well this year as well. So it's going to be a good series. I think. I mean, we've got Skeens and Keller going. They've got Lodolo and Green going.
Hey,
and we've got Falter going too.
There's still Bailey Falter.
There's still
right,
Bailey
right.
Falter. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to this series. Hopefully they can minimize Ellie. I think that's going to be the key to the series is just, can you minimize Ellie De La Cruz making an impact? Because I think if he's not impacting games directly, the Reds are having issues.
So with that said, the Pirates catching situation has been very dim this year, especially throwing out base runners. So welcome back, Jason DeLay. That's all I want to say. I am correct. Like you said, like that is going to be a big thing. Minimizing the damage that Ellie De La Cruz provides for this Reds is going to be huge. And again, a lot of the damage that he provides is he has power. He has 12 home runs. This is going to be in Cincinnati. You can hit balls pretty deep there, Jim. So pretty well. So when he's not hitting home runs, he's getting singles. How do you eliminate those from becoming doubles and triples? So, if Jason DeLay, I hope, is the guy getting the bulk of the starts going forward. I don't know, but damn it, Jim. It better not be Yasmani Grandal anymore. Jason DeLay is a good, competent, actual catcher. This team.
Good.
Behind the plate.
Okay, good.
Okay, behind the plate, I'm talking.
There. Yeah.
that is a lot of work in general, yes. Though again, my catcher had 3 RBIs yesterday. But no, I'm talking about behind the plate.
Great game.
Defensively, he's a good, competent defensive catcher. Where Yasmani Grandal isn't that anymore, right? And Henry Davis has actually been pretty decent. We talk about, but he also isn't throwing out base runners too much this year. So like this is a good time to maybe get Jason DeLay back. Maybe he can help limit that. I don't know. But we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm done with Grandal.
Yes.
Like right now, Jason DeLay is my starting catcher for the time being until Bart and or Davis comes back, and even Davis hasn't looked great. So yeah, I think they really need Joey Bart back. Who would have thought we'd be saying in spring training when Joey Bart was a San Francisco Giant, we'd be sitting here on June 17th and go, God, we need Joey Bart back on this team.
Yeah, well, not me.
Yeah. All right. Let's do just our show today. It is brought to you and sponsored by Chris Gates Fitness, just like every single week. And while you're listening, go ahead and do something for us. Go ahead and subscribe to Chris's YouTube channel. You can find him at youtube.com/Chris Gates Fitness, or just search for his name and you'll find his channel. Chris is putting a ton of effort into his videos lately, and it's definitely worth a sub. He posts daily videos that dive deep into different aspects of health and fitness to help you learn how to manage your diet, exercise, and more, and make progress. That's youtube.com/Chris Gates Fitness. And as a reminder, Chris is an online fitness coach from Pittsburgh, huge Pittsburgh sports fan, friend of the show. He works with people all over town, whether it's to build fat, lose fat, build muscle, or do both while improving your overall health and wellness. Chris helps people find a sustainable approach with diet and exercise to make programs that stick. I've been working with him over a year now, and it's been working out great. And he's coming up with a new program here in about a month and a half or so. So yeah, make sure you follow his YouTube channel. He's got some really cool stuff to announce here soon.
Still won't tell me.
Nope. It's a surprise.
Awesome stuff. Well, then you know what that means. It is time for Starbucs on Deck. Welcome to the show once again, Anthony Murphy from Bucs On Deck Substack. How's it going, buddy?
How's it going? Another
morning.
fantastic morning. Paul Skeens Day, right?
It is Paul Skeens Day.
Happy Paul Skeens Day. And on that note, Murphy, not that I don't want to hang out with you, but I've got a hard stop here at 7:30. So you and DiNardo, you all are going to take it home. So I'm going to pop off here. Have fun, you two.
What did you do to deserve this? You're stuck with me now.
I can't work in these conditions.
I understand. I understand. but no, for real. Welcome to the show. You know what we do? We bring you on. We talk about the prospects. Typically highlighting 2 hitters, 2 pitchers. You let the chat down a little bit last week.
Did I?
Who are we going to talk about this week?
Who can talk? I guess we got to talk about McAdoo, right?
Yes, that's what I was waiting for.
Okay, so did I let the chat down, or did I let you down? Did I let you down?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
There is some real McAdoo fever going on right now because this guy has been electric.
For very good reasons. I mean, he's probably, I would imagine, going to lock up another Player of the Week thing in the South Atlantic League, unless someone else went just as crazy with him. But he picked up 11 hits in like 5 or 6 games, 2 doubles, 2 triples, a home run, drove in 12 just last week alone. So he's batting like 344, 423, 575, OPS of right at 1,000 right now on the season. So
very nice.
Yeah. Nolan and I make jokes in our group chat that like they're trying to lock up a playoff spot for Greensboro in the first half, and then after that they're just going to send McAdoo up, which is good news because the first half of the high A season technically ends middle of this week. So
cool.
And Greensboro won 5 of 6, so they put themselves in pretty good position to lock themselves up into a playoff spot for the first half of the season. So maybe we'll start seeing some movement now. But yeah, McAdoo, I know I've said this before. He was a guy I wasn't trying to get too excited with until he hit like AA. But it's kind of hard not to be excited with what he's doing right now. Was it Baseball America kind of highlighted him a little bit, talking about like he has the of hitters in the minors with his exit velocity numbers, like 90th percentile. He has the best contact rate out of anyone with like a 90th percentile of 108 or higher. So he's not only hitting the ball really hard, but he's also making like a really good contact as well. So
that's good stuff. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Like where I'm at with him is I think I talked about 2 weeks ago, when we first mentioned him again. It's just like he got signed to the organization. Like he just, from the very first week, the very first few games, like how electric this stuff was, what you're seeing him do, McAdoo fever began. And like, I'm with you. Like, of course, realize his age, realize where he's at, right?
Yeah.
Things don't truly matter. Like when you talk about prospects, I think a lot of people, if they carry this mindset, once they hit AA, then that's when you really start paying attention to what they're doing. I get all that. But like you can just still be excited because this is exciting. And there's not a whole lot going on in the minors, especially hitting wise, to be excited about. So like what McAdoo is doing, this is exciting stuff. This is definitely very interesting. And like you're talking about, like it's not even like a hit a game. He's basically getting like 2 hits a game.
Yeah.
His like multi-hit games are as much as like some actual players getting hits in games for the Pittsburgh Pirates today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, and like watching him too, like you sit down and really watch him, it's like the stuff looks like it's gonna translate like beyond high A as well, because like he adjusts to the breaking pitches really well. He hit a home run on the first pitch he saw last week, the very first pitch. It was like a curveball on the outer half. He like held up and adjusted the swing mid pitch and drove it straight over the left field wall for a home run. It was that kind of stuff is like, yeah, the home run is nice, but like what he did in the lead up to like the home run, it wasn't like he was trying to sell out and he was over swinging and he was jumping on this first pitch fastball or stuff like that. He made a legitimate adjustment that you want to see out of legitimate hitting prospects. And I think slowly I've started to like, I'll fully buy in, like he does this at AA and beyond. But I think I've bought in even more than what I wanted myself to do, just because seeing little stuff like that. Like we could look at his numbers and the numbers are nice and like, oh well, look, he's hitting really good here and this stuff like that. But it's like the little mechanical adjustments that he's shown an ability to make that really I feel like is putting him on the right path to be a legitimate prospect now in the system.
Now that's interesting. That's certainly interesting.
So it's not like the Matt Gorski who just I'm swinging for the fences every single time, and because he's swinging for the fence every single time, he hits 10 home runs in a week in Greensboro because it's Greensboro. This is I made a really good adjustment on a really good pitch, and because I'm a better hitter than the guy was the pitcher, I took advantage of it, kind of thing. So,
cool. No, that's good to hear too, because like you said, like it is Greensboro. Also, the power is just easy to come by in that sense.
Yeah.
But right, like he has the power, but he also has the batting average, right? Like he's batting .344, but he has 9 home runs, 4 triples, and 14 doubles in 57 games.
He's 12 stolen bases too. Like he's 12 of 15 on stolen base attempts too. So and watching him like run the bases on his triple too, he got around the bases like pretty quick, a lot quicker than I would think for like a guy with like his profile and stuff like that. He got around the bases like really quick, and so like it was kind of like, okay, well these 12 stolen bases kind of make sense here. So I mean he's clearly going to have like double digits on both by the end of the year. Like if he makes it up to Altoona and the power like translates, and like the exit velocity numbers say that it should translate as long as he continues to make contact. It's not like Cheng last year to where it's like, okay, well, we kind of know this isn't like for real kind of thing. Like he's hitting the ball hard enough to where it's like, okay, well, this should play at any ballpark now. It's just a matter of, are these swing decisions and swing adjustments going to work against the next level of pitching?
Cool. That's good stuff to hear. So there's a very good likelihood that within the next few weeks, the promotion's probably coming.
I can't imagine that they like at this point now, like as fun as it's to him to watch him hit 5 or 6 extra base hits a week in high A and stuff like that. It comes a point to where it's not really doing anything for him by doing that. And like you could make a very, if you make the argument that like it's way past that, like I probably would sell into that very easily, that like he's way past that point. But like I don't see how this doesn't happen soon for him.
Okay, that's good. No, that's what I wanted to hear, because this doesn't seem challenging to him anymore. We're talking, it's like almost the Paul Skeens where it's just like I'm well above you guys and I'm just dominating, and it just shows at this point. So being 22 years old, it would be nice to see him in AA, challenge him at least a little bit here. And again, like now you're starting to see like, is this for real or not? Because if Charles McAdoo can be a guy for this organization, that's going to be huge, because, we talked about the pitching a lot. We talk about how they've developed these guys, this pitching factory, if you want to call it, but it's not the case for the hitting. So like if McAdoo could be a guy, that's really cool, because it's like, he's not that far away either. He's 22 years old. If he's reaching AA, here in the second half of the season, he's close. Yeah.
And he's played, like another one of the things for Moose too, like I was never sure of where he was going to play like defensively, and he's played a lot of third base this year, and he's actually looked a lot better defensively than like I kind of imagined he would. So that was kind of always the like, where is he going to play? Is he just going to end up being like a first baseman kind of thing? And that kind of changes a lot of stuff, because like that puts that much added pressure on the bat to come through and to translate up there. But he's looked pretty good in third. He had a couple plays out in the outfield today that was kind of like, misjudged a couple balls, and the throw in wasn't great. But like also too, like I don't think he's played there as much as like he has in the infield. So there is some like versatility there. Drafted as a second baseman. He played second base in college. He played a little first last year in Bradenton. Been playing mainly third base, a lot more now because Jack Brannigan's on the injured list. So he's kind of been the guy at third. And then they threw him out there in right field for a game. So there is some versatility there, and he's definitely held his own there more than I thought he would. So
Good stuff.
That helps raise the floor a little bit more if you know that he can play multiple positions and stuff like that. It takes a little bit pressure off the bat because you could kind of move him around and stuff like that. It makes him kind of more of a fit as like a utility player in like a worst case scenario kind of thing.
Cool. Good stuff. Well, there you go, everyone. There's your Charles McAdoo information. Yeah. So now you have to go read the Bucs On Deck Substack. That's the requirement to hear the Charles McAdoo information here. So make sure you do that. All right. So who's next on the list?
So I don't know if John Drecker listens to the show, but just in case, I have to say the nickname in first with it. But Ralph Kiner Delgado had himself a pretty solid week, and I know it's been a little bit since we talked about him. I think the last time we talked about him was when I was in Florida. So
yeah,
because I was there, it was his first week in the system and stuff like that. So he got off to that really good start, hit a couple home runs and stuff like that. The power's kind of like cooled off a bit since then. But that has given him a little bit of a chance to like show like the speed. I think the speed was the thing that a lot of people were excited about. I even when I talked to like Jim Horner, the Bradenton manager, he made like a joke about like wanting to see Delgado stop hitting home runs just so you can see him steal bases and stuff like that.
Yeah, you did say that.
Yeah, because that was like the big thing about him when they got him. So he had a pretty good week, hit a couple extra base hits. He had a big triple in the game on Sunday, walked 5 times. I think that was another thing too that I kind of wanted to see from him. He looked like he was a little aggressive at the plate. He was, swinging, not maybe trying to draw some walks. He drew 5 walks last week, stole a base. He has, and for a guy who's like I don't think he's going to be a big home run hitter because the frame is kind of small. He can hit the ball harder than what I think we all kind of expected. But he does have 12 extra bases in 34 games in the Pirate system. And then on top of that, he's also stolen 11 bases. So nice little power speed combo right there. He's played some pretty solid defenses as well. It's been a really good addition at the top of the lineup for Bradenton on there, and he was able to kind of flash both the speed and the power this past week.
Interesting, yeah. He was part of the JT Brubaker return, and at least for me, this is something I'm going to be monitoring that return because not to go into too much detail, but I kind of I questioned a little bit the JT Brubaker trade, the time of it, why doing it now. So here's the return, and again, okay, well, for that return, this guy, there's some definitely intrigue with him. You mentioned the power and speed combination. But I'm also wondering too. You talk about defense. How do you think it's looking? Is this the guy that's going to stick or what?
He's probably a second baseman. Like by the time you get all the way up there, he's played pretty well at shortstop. He's shown some good range. Has a pretty decent arm. I just don't think it's going to play like once he gets to the higher levels and stuff like that. But he's been. I think I read something about. I don't think it was like on BA or anything like that. I read something else to where like someone did not like his defense at all, and I haven't seen that yet. Like he made a couple good plays in Bradenton when I was down there. He's made a lot of just very solid plays for. I mean, maybe you never know kind of thing. Maybe he just keeps playing the higher he goes up. But I still see him as kind of like a second base guy going forward.
Cool. But yeah, so far in Bradenton, 242, 320, 324, 411. Like you said, like the power speed combination is certainly there. Excuse me. And like the walks are, it's not as if the guy doesn't get on base at all. Yeah. So some intrigue, 20 years old, Ralph Kiner Delgado. I like it.
Make sure you add that, or John Drecker will come get you.
Right. Okay. Cool. So I guess let's go to the pitching side then. Okay. Who do you want to talk about for the pitchers?
So first guy I'll bring up is on the AA staff. He made the double start this past week. Thomas Harrington had a pretty good week. I think Harrington kind of like lead off on there because I know a lot of people were upset about some of the defense in the majors in Colorado. Like the defense didn't play overly great, and they haven't been overly great this season. it isn't much different down in the minors. There's been a lot of frustrating games to watch sometimes, and it's kind of costed some of the pitching, like really good games and stuff like that. Like there's a couple, like Bubba's last start on Saturday, I think it was going really well, and then he gave up a couple hits, and then there was a defensive play that definitely should have been made that wasn't, and they didn't charge it for an error, and like things went completely downhill for him. So it's been a lot of that in the minors, and Harrington was kind of suffered from that a little bit on his first start because he gave up 6 runs, but only one of them was earned. So there's been a lot of there's. I mean, he did give up 10 hits over 5 innings too, so he was letting a lot of guys get on, but then like the damage was really done after like a couple errors and stuff like that. Really turned it around on Sunday. He only gave up 1 hit over 5 innings and struck out 5. So it's not often that you see the Pirates let the starter that are doing the Tuesday Sunday thing pitch too deep into the game on Sundays. But he was just pitching so well and so efficient and stuff like that. So he finished the whole week with 10 innings, only gave up the 1 earned run, and then 10 strikeouts as well. So really good start. Yeah. Someone that I've been really high on too, and he's pitching really well so far in Double-A. It's frustrating because like the Altoona broadcast used to have like the velocity readings in like the little broadcast, the little overlay or whatever you want to call it, and it doesn't have it anymore. So it's been hard to kind of gauge where he's been at velocity wise. There was a tweet I saw where it was like the velocity was looking like it was up a little bit from the year prior. So that's good, but there's really no way to tell at the moment.
Cool. Yeah, like he's definitely, I feel like obviously this Paul Skeens, right? Then you've heard like your Bubba Chandlers, your Anthony Solometos. Like there's definitely been some pitching, but there's a lot of underrated pitchers in this organization that don't get talked about too much. Harrington certainly fits the bill. And I think Tyler's actually a real big Harrington guy as well, like going back from last year. So yeah, I mean, he is doing what you asked for, what you hope to see at this point in time, as far as results wise. Also, even with that bad start, as you mentioned, like a 3.13 ERA, the 1.04 WHIP.
There was and there was some top, because on the site we did our midseason update for our top 25 list. There was some debate that we had talked about who because obviously Paul Skeens is the number 1 prospect, but he's only a couple of weeks away probably from graduating. So There was actually some talk about who we were going to have at the number 2 spot, who would eventually kind of take over as the top prospect in the system. And we did talk about Harrington being the number 2 guy just because of the higher floor right now that we feel that he has compared to like a Bubba Chandler and stuff like that. So there was like I kind of debated back and forth between Chandler and Harrington. I know Nola and like what else, we all had that. Chandler ended up being our number 2 prospect with it, but I think it was pretty close to the point to where we almost had Harrington as the number 2 prospect in the system.
I think that's kind of important. Again, that kind of just shows like the type of prospect he is. I mean, we know the ceiling that Bubba Chandler possesses, and you were talking about even like, is he on the level of Paul Skeens? Like especially like the fastball and such. Like that's what he possesses, is this type of talent. But the floor, which is also important, is something that like is Chandler maybe even a reliever at the end of the day. Whereas like Thomas Harrington, like you're talking like he not going to announce anything at this point in time, right? But like you look at him and you can say, I can see him being a starter at the major league level, at least at this point in time. So I think it's important for people to hear that. I think a lot of people understand and know who Bubba Chandler is, and you're here debating, is Thomas Harrington actually, respected and well enough to be higher on the rankings? So yeah, like certainly a guy to keep your eye out on. All right, and who's the last guy?
So there's actually a couple, like Bradenton had some like really good starters and stuff like that. Even I thought about like, I know everyone likes to bring up the Josh Bell trade. Eddie Dean is actually pitching pretty good in Altoona right now out of the bullpen. But one guy I wanted to highlight, I don't think I've talked about him yet. He's a guy that I had a chance to talk to the Bradenton manager about down there, but Antoine Kelly's is starting to kind of figure things out a little bit more down there. His last start, he struck out 8 over 6 innings, only gave up a run. think he's only given up like he's only given up a couple earned runs over his last 3 or 4 starts. Just he's one of the guys that's like kind of learning how to pitch compared to just throw. He has like a really good fastball. Horner said that like he got in a lot of situations last year in the complex league to where he would just try to overthrow the ball and it would lead to a lot of walks and pitches out. And they've really tried to, okay, just like the fastball is really good. Just focus on getting it at the top of the strike zone and then just letting everything else kind of play along with it. Like he has a really good changeup. The changeup has just really come along to where it's working really well off the fastball. He'll hit the fastball at the top of the strike zone. Changeup will tail away. There's a cutter slider with it. Someone that's like probably has a lot of work to kind of do and stuff like that. But when you talk about like now, like, we talk about the pitching factory with the Pirates and stuff like that, and what they're able to do, it's easier to kind of project like pitchers like this, maybe kind of putting things together now that they're in the Pirate system more so than maybe like in years prior, or more so like in different, like if he was in a different system, maybe it's like, okay, well, he's just like a really nice arm, like, but like, is he going to figure it out? But now we've seen what the Pirates are able to do, maybe they're able to get some of these international signings and stuff like that to start to click and stuff like that. And he has, for a lot of the pitchers that I've seen in the lower levels, he has some of the better stuff, like better raw, pure stuff kind of stuff that I've seen.
Okay. I'm also still trying to get used to that and adjust, by the way, when you're talking about the Pirates pitching system here, right? Like it feels good that they're in the Pirates system. I still take a deep breath. I'm like, that's right. The Pirates are producing pitchers these days. But looking at that's interesting. Certainly a name that I don't think we've ever talked about. Antoine Kelly, 20 years old from Aruba. And
he pitched in the World Baseball Classic for the Netherlands, I believe. And he came out there and it came in an inning of relief, and it was a pretty good inning of relief. Like he was pumping 94, 95 with the fastball and stuff like that. And it was a really good inning. And I believe, if I remember correctly, it was a pretty high leverage situation too that they put him in. So, but he's one of the better arms down there. And like, there's a lot of guys down there. And the Pirates have a guy who's hitting 100 right now down in the complex, but like he can't hit the strike zone to save his life. So like a lot of people have like arm talent down in the lower levels. His stands out because like the overall thing, and you kind of seen the progress that he's made throughout the year, becoming more of a pitcher, learning how to set things up, learning how the pitches work off of each other and stuff like that. And the number, like I'm sure if you kind of break down like the numbers, like the month-to-month numbers and stuff like that, you'll probably see a little bit of improvement and stuff like that. But it's like he's one of those guys that's like, okay, let's let him do his thing, and then at the end of the year, we'll kind of sit back and see how everything progressed and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I kind of support that. We look at, and these are just numbers, results. I don't have the insight you have, but he starts off the year 3 earned run, 7 earned run, 3 earned run. And then his past 4 starts, 0, 1, 2, 1. So if you're talking about things clicking, certainly results wise, it seems to be clicking for him as well. Strikeouts are up too. So, back-to-back starts, 7 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, just 1 walk in each of them. So good stuff. Good stuff. Maybe Antoine Kelly, next man up.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys like that down there. And like I said, you're more inclined to believe that a pitcher is going to kind of just solve things now in the system than anything else. So
right. Well, cool. Well, good stuff. So there's your 4. There's your 2 batters, 2 pitchers. Anyone else, just real quick, you just wanted to highlight, maybe an honorable mention?
Braxton Ashcraft looked pretty good in his AAA debut, and maybe
future Pirates reliever then, right?
Bullpen games. Maybe instead of running 2 bullpen games, maybe we could just put an actual starter there, and that would be easier.
So I'll say this, okay? Because I know we differed a little bit, and I think Jim and I kind of feel the same way to the degree. It's like if you have limited innings, why not put them in the bullpen where this team is needed? You've been hammering, I feel like, even harder this week on Twitter. I've been seeing it.
Yeah.
Right? This is why he's a starter. This is why he's a starter, right? I'll say this. Then use them there. I think my biggest problem is there is a finite amount of innings. So how do you maximize that finite amount of innings for the Pirates where they could use those innings? I would be on board with that because we're seeing more of that. Like if he was here on Sunday, which, by the way, like again, Josh Fleming did his thing. So in hindsight, it worked. But I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Do you really want Josh Fleming to consistently?
No.
Yeah. See. So the bullpen thing worked really well this weekend against the Colorado Rockies.
Correct.
So I get it, and I think what it comes down to is like just how many innings Ashcraft has left. I think it's a little bit higher than what maybe a lot of people are thinking. I think if you can get him to about like 110, maybe even close to 120, that's still plenty of time to get him 10 starts in the majors kind of thing, and then maybe kind of scale him back. So he only needed 72 pitches to get through that 6 innings in AAA. Like that's being able to save the ball. Like, you know, the best way to not have to use your middle relievers is just have a starter that can go 6 or 7 innings, and he's a guy who can go 6 or 7 innings. And I don't know. And then wind him down in September, and you know, throw him into the bullpen then if you have to, or just shut him down completely after he did his job and saved everyone else's arms and stuff like that. And he's one of your starters going into next year and stuff like that. So I get it. And if you were to tell me he only had like 80 to 90 innings this season or something like that, first off, I'd say they did a horrible job at managing his innings, because then you put him in a position where you have to put him in a bullpen just to have him last the entire season. But if that's the case, then I guess that's the only way to do it. But I don't think we're looking at 80 to 90 innings from him this year. So
cool. Yeah, good stuff. Again, this is a little debate. But if he's going to give you like 10 starts in the majors, I would sign me up for that all day long. I would just leery on that. I'll say this: if he just stays in AAA, then it's a failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got to come up at some point and give. Some innings.
He threw like 11 changeups. He threw like 11, 12 changeups, and remember, that's the thing that I've said that I wanted to see more of out of him. Right. So like I literally saw the one thing I wanted to see. They weren't all great, but some of them were okay. They were enough to like, okay, he doesn't have to throw it. If he throws it 2 or 3 times in a game with his other pitches, I think that'll be fine. He showed me the only thing he needs to show. The controls still work there. I don't think there's anything he needs to do in the minors at this point.
Well, I like hearing that though. I like hearing that. I like hearing he's ready because his time's probably coming soon. So, well, cool. Well, Anthony, once again, appreciate it. Go ahead and plug all your stuff again, where people can find you.
Bucs On Deck Substack. We like I mentioned earlier, we released our midseason update for the top 25 prospects. We're also running a 20% off a yearly subscription right now, so sign up for that so you can get access to all the list and all our other premium stuff. I do a lot of video breakdowns of the prospects and stuff like that. Some player features I got from while I was in Bradenton. On Twitter, I talk pretty much just baseball. I try to make little sarcastic life comments here and there at Twitter, _Murphy88. And that's pretty much it.
There you go. Well, again, as always, appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Well, as always, appreciate you guys for listening, watching. It's just me right now since Jim is gone. So I want to remind you all, if you haven't yet, go ahead and check out the link in the description. Our tailgate is this Saturday. So if you do plan on coming out, make sure you RSVP. That way we can get you your sandwich. Again, as always, sponsored by, catered by Permane Brothers. That said, let's get out of here. Pirates play tonight. We'll be back for a post game. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucs.